Welcome. This is Astrology Insight Now, a weekly forecast program with astrology and other ways to help you make the most of your week and to heighten confidence for daily life. It's run by Pamela Cuccinell, that's me, the astrologer, and I invite you to find out more about my work at insightoasis.com. I look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends, and here we go. Full disclosure, as I begin this recording, it is actually the weekend before the forecast, which is as of January 26th. And as I'm doing this, I have to acknowledge that we just have seen Mars move into Aquarius. And on the day that I'm doing this recording, the news has let me know that Alex Pretti was murdered in Minneapolis in continuing escalation of what is leading up to a confrontation. We're already there, of military might against United States citizens and people who come to the United States or in the United States, maybe even beyond the United States. Aside from the absolute heartbreak that all this is causing, I speak, of course, of an awareness with what's happening astrologically. So with Mars in the sign of Aquarius, Mars being the energy about, well, the war god, but also the energy about expressing what we desire, how we take action, libido, asserting anger, expressing injustice. So in the sign of Aquarius, it can have a very strident need to really determine, most especially of all, freedom, individual rights. And Pluto is in the sign of early degree Aquarius. So what we have is this conflagration of Mars and Pluto, and people keep talking about what is the tipping point when United States citizens or people really start to speak up and declare this isn't necessarily the government we want or how we want things run, or certainly how we want people to be treated. And you can see, as I'm looking now, I will talk about the week ahead as of the 26th of January, what we're experiencing with that Mars-Pluto, if you will, Pluto being the higher octave of Mars. Pluto was the god of the underworld, so symbolizes our base instincts, the unconscious, the impulses we have, whatever caused this need to assert authority, power, aggression, and kill a man lying on the ground, totally unarmed, shoot him in the back. I mean, that is just an exercise in power and also total detachment with value of human life. So you see this kind of escalation, this power keg energy that we have this week with Mars and Pluto in this alignment, and the explosive expression that has been launched as of this weekend. So the week ahead, as each of us individuals looks at how do I work with a strong passion, energy that's about wanting to express, whether it's anger, assertion, goals, power, something that I desire and really want to manifest in alignment with however we recognize and understand the motivations of our subconscious. And even those of us who think we're very in touch with this and enlightened, things trigger and awake a sort of sleeping dragon, if you will. And what is the tipping point for each of us, or the catalyst energy that really causes a bringing up of what one might refer to as deep Kundalini energy, the sense of this is how I must express this, what can be a highly creative urge. It doesn't have to be destructive. What causes the destructiveness and what we're seeing so much of is thwarted ambition, thwarted sense of expression, uh, a sense of really feeling a connection with the whole. So the need to wield power over someone very much comes from a place of feeling powerless, and wanting revenge comes from very much a sense of not having one's own agency, who I am, who I answer to. So as we look at each of us, what's going on inside of us on Monday into Tuesday, the moon is in the sign of Taurus, and it's actually well aspected for really fulfilling a sense of what do I want to express in the material world? What is it that, how do I own a sense of my own, well, my own security? Doesn't mean that you necessarily have to hide in your home because the world seems so fraught. But it does mean if you see something that you have a voice in changing, really cite and be proud and declare what it is you value. Taurus is connected to the voice, and Mars is about, as I said, expression. It launches forward. It's, if you see the symbol of Mars, it's a circle with a arrow pointing upward, slanted upward. And so that shows a direction. And what is the voice? The voice is being able to declare how you think, what you believe is right, your self-expression, but also your willingness to make that voice heard. So I believe that we're certainly not going to see a quieting down quickly in a country like the United States. We're going to be seeing a increased expression, volume, declaration, because many people are reaching a threshold where they're looking at what's happening around them and having a sense of, this isn't the world I want, certainly isn't the country I want. And some people may be very complacent and think, oh, this is okay. But the percentage of people who don't is hugely changing, because US citizens live under the illusion that they have individual rights and that self-expression is key. And when I say the illusion, I'm saying that because right now, clearly, that is being threatened. And it's always been, one might argue, a delicate balance. And it's being so tested now because people are in this quandary. Are they being seduced by the pretty little games that AI entices us to play at the cost of our own water supply? The dirty little secret, how much cooling these technological behemoths require, tapping on water supplies that, of course, keep people alive. So, not to make this totally dark, let's talk about how we can maximize this waxing moon cycle week to tap in to the strength of what we want to give voice to. And do it in whatever way is comfortable to you, but define it, understand it, acknowledge it, make a structure to it, a goal to it. I mean, some people make a regular practice of, if they're US citizens, calling their people with an app like 5 calls. Other people actually physically go and do things that put them in the line of sight. And we have to acknowledge the courage that these kind of movements take when the seduction is to think, just be still, be quiet, be invisible. On Monday, there's a Jupiter moon picture, which those of you who listen regularly know that I talk about how Jupiter is great benefic. It tends to magnify whatever it touches. And this particular day, the magnification that's happening has to do with, what do you feel magnanimous about? What do you feel you're a sense of gratitude for? And it is to note that it is important to feel gratitude for things like freedom, food in your belly, shelter. Even if your work is hard, that you're able to work, that you're able to walk with a sense of dignity. And these things are important to magnify within yourself, gratitude for, and it strengthens our muscles for kindness, generosity, and human connection. That energy moves into the 27th when the moon goes void, of course, at 12:58 p.m. Eastern Time. The thing I want to mention about Monday also is that Neptune moves into Aries now for 2026 and beyond. This is so interesting to me, and I will continue to talk about this at length, but Neptune, among other things, it symbolizes how we're all connected in the big universal unconsciousness. Water, god of the sea, and water in all its configurations. So it also symbolizes ice. And as I'm making this recording, we've got this ice storm raking across the United States, but it's not just geological, the weather ice storm. It's also the storm of agents who feel a sense of power and absolutely no one they need to answer to. So the metaphor there is quite striking. We have these ice phenomena at the same time that Neptune moves into the sign of Aries. So think about it. Neptune, which is often considered about the high spiritual octave, we call it the higher octave of Venus, of love. And yet we're coming off of Neptune and Pisces, which created a sense of confusion, dissolved borders, people feeling victimized, people feeling fearful. Also, creativity and a lot of power coming out of musical artists as well, standing in their truth and putting out messages that were about coming together. I think of Bad Bunny and Taylor Swift, but especially Bad Bunny, because the connectivity that comes from music, people of all stripes liking a sound that they may not even like the entertainer, but they like the sound. And also Neptune and Pisces, things like the Kennedy Center, which was taken over and called the Trump Kennedy Center, and a lot of musical artists just sloughing away, dissolving away from money, from gigs they'd had for years. It's quite fascinating, really. So Neptune in Aries, well, Aries is a fire sign, cardinal fire. Perhaps it will melt the ice. But what we will certainly see is a rising of the spiritual warrior. What is that message? We've been hearing a lot of confused messages about what religion is and what spirituality is, and supposedly what God-fearing people do. But with Neptune and Aries, there will be a lot more passion to a cause. And so that opens up the week as well. And when the moon moves into Gemini at 3:55 p.m. on January 27th, now we have also on this day the exact Mars-Pluto conjunction. So the messages I think that will be coming out on Tuesday the 27th are going to be very strong, very directed, very powerful. And in Gemini, there'll be a lot of different perspectives, different points of view. But the messages will be flying even more so than they are now. But there'll be messages of action, whatever that means, to whomever it means. There's a lot of pushback that may happen on afternoon Tuesday, Wednesday, into Thursday, the 29th morning of, that have to do with pushing back against authority, against institutional structures. And that may look like, well, certainly in the news, it may look like a lot of continued friction against what seems to be clamping down in authority. Basically, the positive about these couple of days is so much about I am giving voice to things that I see that are unjust or compromise my freedom. And I'm not just talking about United States politics, although that certainly seems to have an influence right now. I'm talking about a situation you may have at work or within your family dynamics or a neighborhood thing where it's just important to state truth, define what you feel is just, and come to a place where you can speak, confront, push back on something that feels like it's clamping down. And that doesn't mean, obviously, to hit with incendiary force at all. What it means is to, as I've been talking the past couple of weeks, figure out your calculated strategy, your calculated chaos. This is what's going on if one steps back and observes what's happening in a place like Minneapolis. There is a very jaded, calculated perspective in creating chaos on the ground in order to justify even more punitive aggression. People don't like getting beat up or watching their neighbors shot. And if they react enough, a government with tremendous force will want to clamp that down. So this is calculated chaos. They know what they're doing. What the jury is still out on is how much of that chaos can happen before everything tips. And will it tip? Because we know Neptune in Pisces, the media has been so obfuscated that it's difficult for anyone to really know what the truth is. People choose their truths based on what makes them feel comfortable. With Mars in Aquarius aligned with Pluto in Aquarius, it may be hard to dodge what seems to be the right, just connection to freedoms and individuality. Mars is a fast-moving planet, though. So the highest points of tension are actually happening this week, because when Neptune moves into Aries, that is fire, which flames up higher with air, Aquarius. And so we have this lot of air on the fire, the bellows, if you will. So that moon in Gemini, also an air sign, really conflates how this is going midweek, which a conscious person can use as a power source to manifest something you want to write, something you want to express, a connection that needs to be made. It doesn't all have to be chaos in the streets at all, but it requires consciousness to see where you're at and what's going on around you. The moon goes void, of course, at 2:57 p.m. on Thursday. And then the times I give are Eastern time for new listeners. And then it enters the sign of Cancer at 5:32 p.m. So that brief period of time when the moon is void of course, as in any void of course moon, it's best to work on things already in motion. Don't start something new, and don't expect to get anybody really excited with a follow-through endeavor, because there's not that kind of glue that really excites them enough to carry on with the mission. But at 5:32 p.m. on Thursday, when that moon enters Cancer, now we're in some really strong energy that's very much about the follow through. Initially, we can feel a bit of perhaps discomfort, questioning what we are doing, Someone may question it, or we may question it. And it's important to work through that, to recognize, is this really something I want to carry out? Is this something I really care about, believe in, and feel is the right course? Because when we do that vetting and understanding, then we can really sink into like full range in carrying this through to fruition. It's very, very powerful. So that goes into Thursday night, into Friday. And Friday is a really super day for those kind of social connections, any work that's positive for your community, and that includes your work community, your home life, of course. And it's just a super, super day for meeting minds, finding opportunities, and finding the right people who really do offer the support to carry through to the next stage. Rather auspicious day, in spite of what I talked about with all the other chaotic things going on. Especially sweet into the late evening, into the late afternoon the next day. Very, very strong. The moon goes void of course at 4:52 p.m. and then it enters Leo at 7:09 p.m. As I've been saying, Thursday night into late afternoon on Saturday the 31st, terrific energy for connecting with people you love, things you love, really feeling that creative heart able to carry out to fruition and give birth to ideas, concepts, realize, waxing moon cycle, things that you've been pulling together for quite some time. You may not hit the finish line with the long-term goals, but it absolutely can be a time of feeling very satisfied with how far you've gone on the run. Once that moon has entered Leo, this is an evening that's very nice for entertainment, hearing music, seeing a show. All those things are great, great, great. And we go into Sunday the 1st, when the full moon is exact, and that is 5:09 p.m. in Leo. It's a beautiful energy. Leo moon often has a charisma about it, that full moon energy, because this is also, think about it, the moon is in Leo, the sun is in Aquarius, Pluto is in Aquarius, and Mars is in Aquarius. So that means that Leo moon is in opposition with these three planets throughout the day. And that gives a supercharge to this energy that can be a bit bigger than life and has a jack in the box sort of unexpected element to it. So you want to, you want to be aware of where you are in space on this night. Don't get like overly caught up in things that seem to be so compelling or over the top. But it can be a highly creative energy when we keep our eye on the audience we're working to convince, to engage. We have to keep our eyes open and our sense of really being aware of how everything that is said is received, everything that is put out there is heard. And When we're able to walk that energetic tightrope, we can deliver a message that may unseat, but that doesn't mean it doesn't resolve or complete something that we're actually working on achieving. You have been listening to Astrology Insight Now. Please share with your friends, and if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at astrologyinsightnow.com. Have a stellar week, and we hope to see you next time.